My name is John Matogo. I am in the Action for Industry Committee in Region 8. Here on behalf of our chair of the committee, who is Marius Antonu, who could not make it but asked me to represent him to make the presentation for the industry engagement at this student and young professionals gathering. My responsibility in the committee is Africa Ambassador, so what I do is work with other industry ambassadors in the various sections to engage with industry for our region. And the reason why this is actually very important for the committee is what we've been doing since we launched back in 2016, is we realized that working with students and young professionals is actually the key point, because you actually get why the engagement with industry is necessary. We have tried various initiatives, but one of the things that we realized is that engaging with industry for the section is important because industry is looking for talent, is looking for individuals who will come and join the business, join the organization to help drive productivity. And students and young professionals are also looking out for opportunities, right? So this engagement with industry is very important. And as much as we have the industry ambassadors in the section, one of the things that we want to do is actually to challenge you students and young professionals to actually work with the industry ambassador to push for this engagement with the industry. So my objective at the end of this presentation is to make sure that you students understand why we want to engage with industry and work with your industry ambassador to actually make this engagement work. So who am I? That is me. I am also in industry. I work for IBM. I'm in the East African region, but I've also been a volunteer in IEEE for some time. Why volunteering? And the reason why I showed this slide, not because you are not volunteers, but the reason is that industry has recognized the importance of giving back to society. Nowadays there's a term, before it used to be profit is everything for industry, right? But now there's the idea of the triple bottom line, where you profit, yes, that's important, that's why businesses exist. You've got people, but you also have planet, which is basically the society that we live in. So industry is ready to engage with organizations like IEEE. What we need to do as various sections, and the reason why I say this is important is because we have representation from other sections other than Nigeria. We as sections need to then reach out to industry, give them a framework that we wish to engage with, and they are ready to do this. For you who are in IEEE, why volunteer? It's clear. I mean, if you look at all the various volunteers who are here present, there is a satisfaction, a value that we receive by being active volunteers. This is, I think, news that you've seen from various speakers yesterday and the day before, who IEEE is. So I will not, belabor this particular point. I will go quickly through this and say why, as IEEE, we want to work with industry. Well, for a long time, IEEE has more and more been working with academia. A lot of the membership currently is faculty and students, which is not a problem, but if we look at the roots of IEEE, IEEE actually came out of industry. From the time of AT&T, those are the individuals that came up with this idea of coming up with an organization that we are a member of. So over the years, this engagement with industry has been declining. So what our committee is looking at is to improve ways of increasing this engagement with industry. And this is the work that we've been doing as a committee. And as I mentioned, working with students, for you, you can see the reason why we want to improve this engagement with industry. So I count on you to help our industry ambassadors work more. Our actions over the last 1.5 years that we've been operating is to initialize this engagement with industry in these following areas. We realize we have, in our various sections, a good number of senior members who are in industry, but their participation in various activities has been declining. So as a quick win or as a low-hanging fruit, we reached out to them and asked them to come on board as mentors. They're in industry. We have members who are young professionals, who are students, who are early in their career. How can they come on board and guide the young members in the practice? So this was one area that we engaged our senior members to be mentors to our juniors. We also started engaging with some local corporates. Through the seniors and some of the members, we have reached out to their organizations and looked at partnering with them to see what can be the mutual benefits that we could find in working with IEEE. So the internships was another opportunity that came out clearly. You have companies that are looking for talent. Within our membership, we have engineers who are good talent that these companies could actually source from. So that was another opportunity that we grabbed on and initialized this engagement. And what did we see? In the short time that we started working with that, we were able to establish a large number of collaborations and realized that as industry ambassadors, what you do is working closely with your members. We could activate these relationships with these companies. So we have industry ambassadors. So just for purposes of pointing out who is the industry ambassador in Nigeria, actually the vice chair in Nigeria Section, Engineer John Funzo, is actually the industry ambassador as well. Through the engagement of the industry ambassadors with the seniors and members who are in industry, they were able to open up these relationships with the companies and start this internship programs. And in a short while, I will share with you one of our success stories that we want to model on, which is in Egypt, and build up on that. And externally, the Action for Industry program, we are trying to develop other value propositions that we could show in working with industry. Again, I will show you from the Egypt case study. Another opportunity that we also realize is that working with entrepreneurs is also an important piece that we had not captured before. So one of the objectives or target groups that our committee is actually working with is the entrepreneurs and startup companies, and I will share with you a few ideas in the next few slides. So after the 1.5 years of work, these are some of the partnerships that we have been able to secure and are now beginning to realize good working relationships with. As you can see, a short period of time, very few individuals, we have already established a very big network of organizations that we can partner with. And the challenge to the students and the young professionals in the room here, if you look at the list of companies here, if employment is something that you are looking at securing, do these companies look like good companies to engage with? If you look at these names that you can relate with, okay, so there is an opportunity. And by the way, this is just the work of few individuals over the past 1.5 years. So there is opportunities is large. And what I would also like to give you through this presentation is the plan of how to actually get this engagement working. Over the last year or so, we've been discussing with John and trying to see how can we open up these opportunities with industry. So I want to give you, let's say, a quick thought process that you could use to open up these relationships within your countries. Okay, now I just opened it up to the different representation that is here. How can you identify companies that you can engage with from your section? So I want to recruit all of you to become industry ambassadors in your various sections. So what are the industry sectors that IEEE can engage? A simple process that you could just think through is in a typical organization, how is that organization structured, and what are the opportunities that you as engineers can explore to identify mutual benefits between IEEE and that organization. So the cycle or the processes that exist within the organization, again, this is sort of fairly common. You've got the various organizational units that exist there, IT, supply chain, production, legal, finance, marketing, and so on. And you'll find individuals in this particular space. What can we, as IEEE, offer to this organization? If you look at organizational structures, you sort of have this kind of categorization that you could work with. If you have members within those sections that are in organizations in one of those positions, again, that can be an easy entry point for you to connect with these particular companies and establish relationships that could work for you. And when you have those relationships open, you could then begin developing agreements with these companies. Like I said, in our initial case, we identified the mentorship, the internship as sort of low-hanging fruits to begin these discussions, and that worked out well. But by sitting with these organizations, you actually will open up more opportunities. Remember, companies now have one of the objectives of giving back. So we might find that they also have some requests or asks that they would have to IEEE to give with them. So I'll quickly share with you one case study of Egypt. Mohammed, possibly you also have some information. You know Mohammed Amin, who is the industry ambassador. So he's been very active and engaged with Vodafone in Egypt. Vodafone is a leading telco in Egypt. And what happened here is that they have a program for R&D. And this was an excellent opportunity for IEEE, with a membership that comprises of engineers, to work with Vodafone to establish a collaboration with this organization. So within Vodafone, there's a unit, the R&D department, that does work in research. They work closely with universities, and IEEE, we have student branches in various universities. So this was, again, another very easy way that IEEE could work with Vodafone. And what did the team in Egypt do? By exploring the work that Vodafone is doing, the R&D department is doing, and their reach to the idea to reach out to the universities, they saw IEEE as a good partner to work with, because already within those key universities in Egypt, we have student branches that are active there. So working with IEEE, it was a win-win type of situation that developed here, where Vodafone, through the R&D program, could work together with IEEE through the section to develop initiatives that would be beneficial to both. Let me show you this. Excuse me for just rushing through this. So in the simple agreement that we developed, we identified key elements that would be beneficial both to IEEE and to Vodafone. So you have an agreement that was developed where every year 10 students are selected from the student branches to join the R&D unit of Vodafone. They support the section in Egypt has Engineering Day, Egypt Engineering Day. Vodafone agreed to support this financially through a sponsorship. Vodafone have got a program called the Vodafone Guru. Again, through the section, this was another way that they could identify individuals that would join this Vodafone Guru program. When they're looking for internships or looking for talent, through the communication channel that we have in IEEE, this messaging goes out to the members. And through the R&D department, again, the activities of the student branches are supported in that. So you have a win-win collaboration that is beneficial to both partners. And this is exactly what we'd like to do. We establish student branches, which is the work that you are doing. And through the industry engagement, we then find a relationship that will be beneficial to both partners. So here we've got a matrix of the student branches that are there in Egypt, and I showed you the organization that is there, the Vodafone R&D group, and you have a very good relationship here that this company is actually committing funds because they see this is a beneficial relationship to have. So this is just one example. Remember before in the slide I showed you a number of other companies that have collaboration with IEEE. So we could do this. You as students and young professionals see the opportunities. Look at the way the Egypt section is doing. And you can imagine, as a student member in the Egypt section, the benefit of being in IEEE is clear, because here you've got a direct opportunity that is open for you as a student or a young professional. Okay, so here I was just again highlighting to you some of the other key outcomes of that particular collaboration that exists with Vodafone. Another engagement, I cannot miss to talk about this, sorry. I cannot miss to talk about this, and obviously being in IBM. With IBM, what we have been doing in terms of developing a relationship with IEEE is to present one offering that we have. I will tell you this verbally, but it will come out in the coming days. It's a collaboration that we have with IEEE, not just in one country, but globally, where we make available technology platforms to all students and young professionals who are members of IEEE. Do you know that when you join IEEE, you get the opportunity to have an email address at IEEE? Okay? So using that email address, shortly you will receive communication. You will then have the opportunity to log into a portal and have access to all the IBM portfolio of software. And you can download that for teaching and learning purposes. The idea is that as part of the continuous education mission that IEEE has for its members, you also have, through this collaboration between IBM and IEEE, to have access to all the technologies that we sell commercially for your own learning and development. Later on this year, and this is actually should have been my main talk, is the idea of participating in the digital economy. Okay, you realize now that everything is going to be digital. So what we are doing as IBM is developing a platform for digital literacy, and in the coming days, this will be launched in October 23rd. So I'm giving you a bit of a sneak peek, and working with IEEE, we'll be rolling this out across the continent. The reason why we present this is because we now realize that traditional jobs that were there, and this is also for you as young professionals and students, are not what they used to be. I'll give you an example through a short story. So this young lady who was employed at Google, do all of you know Google? Everyone knows that to get into Google, you have to be, a top engineering graduate or computer science, or the usual story. Now, she was a communications graduate, so not your typical Google sort of candidate. She had a challenge once. She had to develop or to work with a spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet had a problem. It had a macro behind it, and the macro had a bit of an error, so it was not producing the right results when you put in data into it. So what she did, she took a period of about 8 hours. She had an opportunity to sit for 8 hours. She was on a flight from the US to China or someplace like this, and during that time, she took the time to study Visual Basic for applications. This is the programming language that is used to develop macros, right? And during that time, she mastered, or she got an interest and continued to master her VBA knowledge, Visual Basic for applications, and she was able to fix the problem with the spreadsheet. That spreadsheet was shared with some individuals in Google. They were impressed that who is this communication student that could actually do this on a spreadsheet. Anyway, the short of the long story is that Because of her interest in programming to fix that particular problem, she then learned VBA, and that got her an opportunity to work in Google. Okay? This is what, let's say, a phenomenon that we are seeing, we are calling new collar workers. They are individuals who are securing opportunities not through going the traditional way of a 4, 5, 6-year degree program, but they are able to get the right skills to fix a certain challenge. And this is what the digital economy presents. So through that particular program, we also as IBM are beginning to address that particular opportunity through a program we call DNA. Like I mentioned, this will be launched on the 23rd of October, and work with IEEE, the various sections. Again, this will be an offering that we present to our students and young professionals. Okay. Pause for a little bit, and again, a question for the section in Nigeria. How can you engage with the industry here locally? Remember, at the end of this presentation, I want to challenge you to work with your section leadership and identify some organizations that you could make a case similar to the one that we saw in Egypt. And I know in Nigeria there's a lot of huge companies that actually are headquartered here in Nigeria. So I'll give us a simple challenge. Let's identify only 3. Okay? 3 companies that you as a section can engage and have a relationship similar to the one that we saw with Egypt. And work with your industry ambassador. So engineer John Funzo, I think he was here, he just stepped out. Work with him and say, this is the company that we've identified. Even better if you have a member who is a part of the organization, that can be an easy entry point and open up this opportunity for you. This would be a good way to start. The last 2 days I've been in Abuja. I also took the opportunity. Remember, one of the objectives was to work with with entrepreneurs. So I took the opportunity since I was here, after the presentation by the minister and the opening ceremony here. I've been visiting a number of the innovation hubs that are here in Abuja. And I actually had a conversation with them. Through that, I actually invited Anna. Anna is a guest today. She's not in IEEE, but now understands a little bit about IEEE. She represents a network of hubs across the continent. AfriLabs is fortunate to be headquartered here in Abuja. So through her alone, IEEE can reach to 50 plus hubs on the continent. And these are entrepreneurs that we wish to work with. In Abuja, there is Civic Hub, Inspire, Starpreneurs, Ventures platform as key incubators that are hosting entrepreneurs. And while I was there, I actually got to see some of who are doing great engineering activities. So the challenge to you here from Nigeria is to reach out to these hubs and make them to be members of IEEE. They have a lot of entrepreneurs there. They have a lot of great meetup activities and events. We need to engage them as a section. And when you have this kind of discussions with them, have an open discussion. Groups, all this is sort of benefits or strength that we bring that will allow us to open up the with industry. Okay, so the question is, how is the content developed and how is it accessible, right? So the content is developed primarily through IEEE. Sometimes you could have other content coming in from the various partners that we engage with. Access is mostly online. Some of it is freely available through the website. But more than that, I think not just the content, but I think when you have gatherings, you're also able to have discussions that on a face-to-face basis. So, for example, in the toolkit that I will share with you, some of this content is freely available, so just purely by website. But what we hope to do with once we develop this engagement with entrepreneurs a little more, is have gatherings. So, for example, I will share with you. I don't know if in other sections you have exhibitions or expos. So we have an Entrepreneurs Day in Kenya section. What that does is brings Engineers Day, sorry. What that does is that we give an opportunity to young engineers who are developing certain prototypes or solutions to exhibit those. If we develop this further, now we open up the opportunity to members who have startup companies to come and showcase their products or services. Okay, and we were just, like I mentioned, having that discussion recently. One of the formats we want to do this is through IEEE, join, or we can participate in other, let's say, national activities or events. And if we need to secure, let's say, space within this event, we could secure as a section, but then give opportunity to our members to actually display their processes, those kinds of gatherings. If you think about it, when you have this kind of activities, to secure a booth could be something like $1,000 plus, right? But if the section secures that, but then for our members, for the price of your membership, you actually get a space in that kind of event, right? And that's a direct benefit again to our members. Okay. Yes, sorry, at the back. So the relationships would be with the section, okay? But the section would obviously be working with the student branches, right? So which is why I say, if you find an opportunity with Company X in Nigeria, for example, work together with your industry ambassador. This kind of agreements that you, like I showed you, we have an agreement with Vodafone in Egypt, right? That is with the section, with the Egypt section. When the Egypt section obviously has student branches inside it. So the way that the working relationship is through the student branches, but the agreement with the company is with the local section. Is that okay? Yes, please. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Matogo from Kenya. I remember he's one of those speakers that told me I'm going to come in the last minute decision to come. Just like 3 days for us to have this congress, he said, I'm coming. I said, okay, you're welcome, I'll make you come.